It was almost 2 in the morning when I heard it. Not the loud, dramatic kind of packing you see in movies. No slammed drawers, no crying. Just a zipper being pulled slowly, one tooth at a time, like she was trying not to wake the whole apartment. That's the sound that told me everything. Because you only pack that quietly when you don't want to be talked out of it. Her name was Maya. We'd found each other through a roommate ad 11 months earlier, two strangers splitting a two-bedroom neither of us could really afford on our own. I remember the first night, both of us eating cereal for dinner on the floor because we didn't have a table yet, laughing about how neither of us had a plan past the next paycheck. Somewhere in those 11 months, without either of us deciding to, we stopped being roommates and started being the person the other one texted first when something good happened. Or something bad. So I knew something had been wrong for weeks. She'd gone quiet in that specific way people do when they're carrying something they've decided not to share. She stopped leaving the light on for me. She started taking her phone into the other room. She lost her job at the end of the month. She told me that part at least, in this rushed, embarrassed voice, like she was confessing to a crime. And then she said the thing she kept saying after that. She said, "Don't worry, I'll figure it out. I'm just temporary here anyway." Just temporary. Like she was a guest who'd overstayed. Like 11 months of shared cereal and split rent and holding each other's hair back after bad nights meant she was a favor I'd been doing. That night, I lay in the dark and listened to her move around the living room. I heard the fridge open and close. I heard her set something down on the counter. I found out later it was an envelope with the last of her money in it, her half of her rent I hadn't even asked her about. And then I heard the wheels of her suitcase whisper across the floor toward the front door. I got up. She froze when she saw me standing in the hallway. Coat already on. Bag already packed. Keys in her hand like she was about to set them down and walk out of my life the way you'd return a borrowed jacket. "I didn't want to make it weird," she said. Her voice was barely there. "I thought it'd be easier if I was just gone." I asked her where she was going. She didn't have an answer. That was the part that broke something in me. She didn't have a plan or a place or a person. She was going to leave at 2 in the morning with a suitcase and nowhere to point it, because in her head, disappearing quietly was kinder than being a burden. "You've got your own stuff going on," she said, and she wouldn't look at me. "You don't need to be carrying me too. I heard you on the phone last week. You were talking about how tight money's been. And that's on me. I'm the reason it's tight. So, I'm just taking myself out of the equation. It's the least I can do." And I finally understood. She'd been building this whole story in her head, a story where she was the weight dragging me under, where leaving was the noble thing, where the two of us were a math problem, and she was the number that needed to be subtracted. She reached for the door. I crossed the room and caught her wrist before her hand touched the handle. Not hard. Just enough to stop her. Just enough to make her turn around and actually look at me for the first time all night. Her eyes were wet. She was already bracing for me to say goodbye. To let her go. To agree that she was temporary, that this was easier, that she'd been right about the math. I looked at her, and I said the only 2 words that were true. "Your family." That's it. That's all it was. 2 words, but I watched them land on her like something physical. Her face just came apart. The whole story she'd built collapsed in a second, because you can't be a burden and family at the same time. You can't be temporary and family at the same time. Family isn't the number you subtract to make the equation work. Family is the reason you keep the equation at all. "I don't have money," she whispered. I told her I knew. I told her nobody keeps score in a family. I told her the tight month I was worried about on the phone. I'd figure out. The way you figure things out for people you're not willing to lose. I told her the envelope on the counter was going back in her pocket, and the suitcase was going back in her room, and if she wanted to leave someday because she'd found something better, something bigger, a life she was excited about, then I'd help her pack myself and drive her there. But she was not going to sneak out at 2 a.m, believing she was doing me a kindness by vanishing. She cried then. The real kind. The kind you only let out around someone safe. And I held on to her in the doorway of an apartment neither of us could really afford. 2 strangers who'd somehow become each other's people, and I felt her finally let go of the story where she didn't matter. She unpacked that night. It took her 20 minutes to put everything back, and I sat on her floor and kept her company while she did it, the way we used to that first week. We ate cereal at 2:30 in the morning because it felt right, because some things you have to bookend. Maya got back on her feet. Of course she did. She's one of the most capable people I've ever met. She'd just forgotten it for a while under the weight of being scared. New job within 2 months. She paid me back for that tight stretch even though I told her 100 times she didn't have to, because that's who she is. We're not roommates anymore. We moved out of that apartment a long time ago, into separate lives in separate cities. But she still texts me first when something good happens. Or something bad. That never changed. Here's what I keep coming back to, though. She almost left. She almost walked out into the middle of the night, convinced she was doing the right thing. Convinced that the kindest version of herself was the one that disappeared. And the only thing standing between that and the life we still have is that I got out of bed. That I said 2 words instead of staying quiet. So if there's someone in your life who's gone a little quiet lately, who started saying things like I'm just temporary, or you don't need to worry about me, or it's easier this way, please don't mistake that for them being fine. People who feel like a burden don't ask for help. They plan their exit. They pack quietly at 2 a.m, so nobody can talk them out of it. Get up. Catch them before the door. You'd be amazed what 2 words can do.